Join us on the Swim Monkey.
Swim Monkey TV.
On the Monkey.
Welcome. Great stories happen to those who can tell them. And Joe Hour, we've told some good ones over the first few months here. And
this is the best show by far, because we get to hear the stories from past where people haven't told these stories in 10, 15, 20 years. So it's so awesome to hear from everybody. I'm so pumped about tonight.
Well, this is the 10th day of August in the year of COVID. And as you can see, anybody who wants to put in a question, it's Kane Stories night. One of our loyal followers, Ken Gross, he was typing in during the ladies from Florida. He said, don't forget about the U. And I said, there he is. I said, so I reached out to a few folks and it kind of snowballed, Joe. And the University of Miami has such a treasured history. And, at the top of that list this week, I was looking, I saw Coach Bill Diaz. Robert Strauss is coming. He has his own media presence. He's one of the best bilingual swim instructors in the world, they tell me. But he's from a very fabled era at the University of Miami. Joe, I came down to NC State in Miami, and the year was 1974. I was getting out of high school. Coach Bill Diaz was unbelievable to me. Ford Scott was in charge of all the recruiting. I came to campus. David Wilkie took me out to Key Biscayne. Bill's son, John, took me out on the boat. We had a crazy time lobstering. It was unbelievable. And I really almost went, and things might have been a little different, but I probably wouldn't be here with you. But the guys we have on tonight, these are some stellar guys. And actually, ladies, we have some people. And Joe, the first guy I want to bring in is really, we talked about Coach Bill Diaz. And the reason we're getting together tonight is he's finally been recognized to go into the Florida Sports Hall of Fame. And he's going in with a pretty good class. I saw Tiger Woods and Darren Torres, and I'm like, okay, it's good. But the guy who worked so hard for years trying to get him in there and worked for many, many years side by side with him, the absolute great coach in his own right, Mr. Charlie Hodgson. So let's bring Charlie on up. Where is he? Okay.
There he is.
I thought, okay, you got him. I got him. There he is. Charlie, welcome. Tell us where you are and what's going on these days.
Well, I'm just outside of Nashville, Tennessee, no longer coaching after my son finished swimming at the age of 25 in 2016. So all done with that. Now my life is surrounded by my 4 grandkids, the oldest being 6. So they're my life every day. I spend 2 to 5 hours every day with them and teaching them. I have a pool in the backyard, and so they love coming over swimming. They're learning.
Oh.
The dad's a baseball player, but I don't know if I can convince them to go swimming.
But Charlie, did you give him 400 IMs as a youngster? That's what I want to know.
I'm happy if he makes it across the pool.
Well, I'm sure it would. We'll get to that story, because later on in the evening, when he's completing his coaching with the Pompano Piranhas, we are going to have one of your world record holders. How do you like that, Joe, when you talk to a coach? We're going to have one of your world record holders, Jesse Vassallo.
One of them.
Just one, Charlie. But Charlie, but while we're gonna talk first a little bit about Bill Diaz. Yes. And the characters that were swimming kind of in my era and immediately after that. Why don't you set it up? Tell us how you got to the pool deck with Bill, and then we're going to bring in a couple of his All-American swimmers and divers. Go ahead.
Okay, well, basically, Coach was my high school coach. And I started at Miami Jackson in 1962. I already knew him before because he had the Alapata Y and I was on the Miami Springs team. So we had meets at Alapata Y. And so I met him, basically in the 7th grade. And one of the fun things to do was to go to the classic Miami-Jackson High School and Ransom dual meets where Jack Nelson was the coach. And those were dual meets for the ages. I mean, they just pulled so many stunts. It's unbelievable. And so Coach was my high school coach for all 3 years. The senior year, he left and went to Miami Springs and immediately in the first year, won the state championship. And at Jackson, we won the state championship 5 years in a row. And as a senior, I was the only swimmer left. Everybody at Jackson transferred to Springs. I couldn't go there because he didn't have a senior class. Anyway, he continued to coach me because I only lived 3 blocks from the pool in Miami Springs. And then I coached for him a couple summers when I was in college. And that's when I fell in love with coaching. And then I went in the Army. And after the Army, Coach had become the head coach at University of Miami. And so he was so kind and brought me on as the assistant coach for men and women in the fall of '73. And, that's the history from there. So I was with him for 11 years, side by side. And, we complemented each other really well. He was the emotional guy. He was the hustler, the salesman. And I was kind of the methodical, calm thinker type. And so I was just so grateful to him right in the beginning. Pretty much, he let me write, most of the workouts because he thought I was smart, and all that. And I was pretty organized. But he was really the team leader, the team cheerleader in practice. I mean, he just was, always go baby go, And but he was the old school. He was the 3100s every day guy.
Oh, yeah. We're going to talk old school, new school. And you were the young guy coming in, as I remember, Charlie. And I know watching you when I got into my career as a young coach, a lot of us modeled all of our learning after coaches who we wanted to be more like. And there were a lot of us who were looking at guys like you. And talking about cheerleaders, the 2 guys I want to bring in, there are no bigger Kane cheerleaders than my good friends, All-Americans, Kurt Wienants and Timmy O'Brien. Now, fellas, welcome to the show. Tell us where you are. Throw something out there for the people and give some love to Coach Diaz. Tell me a story. We'll start with you, Kurt, because I know you're chomping at the bit. Got to get that off the mute. That's good you've been on mute because we want to keep it that way most of the time.
Maybe you should start with me.
Beautiful long key. Doing a little lobstering. Going home tomorrow. Back to work. So that's.
Have you been catching them? You catching a few? Okay, Kurt, you're live stream. We appreciate you. I'm going to start with Timmy. We'll put you on hold for a minute. Okay, Tim, go for it.
Man, Sid, it's great to see you. Great to see Charlie and Jody. And, I'm in Fort Lauderdale. And Kurt.
Go ahead.
Thanks. Anyway, I'm in Fort Lauderdale, Sid. As you know, I was a coach for many years at the International Swimming Hall of Fame Aquatic Center. And now I run my own marketing business, and life is good. I have a 27-year-old son and a 4-year-old daughter, so life is really good. But I'll tell you, it sounds like you had a similar recruiting trip to the University of Miami that I had. The only difference is I pulled the trigger. When I met Bill Diaz and was down there in Miami in early 1981 with Steve McFarland, I just knew that was the place for me. Lenny Leyland was a teammate of mine in Mission Viejo, where Jesse Vassallo was a swimmer for the Nadadors. And I just knew after meeting Bill Diaz that was the place for me. It was a great tropical paradise. I was used to being near the ocean coming from California. And, Bill Diaz just loved his boys. And I could tell when I was on a recruiting trip there that was the place for me. And, to be honest, Bill Diaz had me at hello, and he still does. I just love that man to death. And
but you didn't have to do the same sets that Kurt had to do. Like you were over there on the diving boards with Steve. Right?
It wasn't bad in Coral Gables in the Speedo in the early 80s in that pool, let me tell you
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So,
Up
so
on the
you're
tennis.
there. Now, the diving coach, originally, the first diving coach I knew of was Tom Gumpf, legendary coach in his own right. What year did Steve McFarland take over?
You know, I think Steve came in the middle to late 70s, but
Okay.
Gumpf built the program. Gumpf was a pilot at Pan Am, and I think
Right.
he was a volunteer coach at the U, and he just built the thing. He had guys like Greg Garlick and, just an endless list had an endless list of guys, and McFarland, and then he turned it over to Steve, who brought in Greg Wienants for a year, and Lenny Leyland, and a list of other guys. And then, I just sort of followed along because Lenny was and is a dear friend of mine, and was a team.
We might just hear from Lenny here shortly, but Kurt, are you ready to give us a little bit? Are you ready now?
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're loud and clear.
Sid, I'm still reeling from you mentioning Ford Scott's name. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
right.
Ford was one of the recruiters for University of Miami and helped get my interest there. And a lot of people don't know this, but my father was a high school coach, also coached for Jack Nelson in the 60s. And my father and Bill used to coach against each other at the high school level. And so when I was getting fairly good in swimming, he had mentioned to me, "Oh, I know Coach Diaz, you might want to take a look at Miami." And sure enough, they called me, sent me down for a trip. Miami was my first trip. I went on 3 trips after that, but I never lost the love I had. They treated me great. It was a place for me. I love South Florida. Never going to leave. I'm here forever. And it was just a great experience. I had the perfect complement with Coach Diaz, the disciplinarian, and Charlie, the technician on the deck. Perfect combination of 2 coaches that handled us great. It was awesome.
Well, that's pretty special. And I know that before we get too much further, I want to follow through with that. Kurt, I'm just going to bounce you for a minute because I want to bring in Charlie, one of your national champions when the women won the title, Dr. Jody Yambor from Tallahassee, I believe. How you doing, Jody?
Hey, good, Tim. Hey, Kurt. I just have to tell you, swimming at the University of Miami is one of the greatest experiences of my life. I loved Coach Diaz. He was like a second father to me. He kind of really looked after all the girls because, he had 3 sons, and he kind of said we were like all daughters to him. And I mean, everything from when there was one of the guys on the team who was a senior who I started liking and was hanging around, calls me in his office and he goes, "Jody, he is not your type of guy." And I'm just really glad that I listened. He was absolutely right. And I agree with Tim and Kurt. Charlie and Coach were the perfect combination. Charlie, I've always thought Charlie was the brains and Coach was the personality, and together they made it all work and brought everybody together.
I do remember, Charlie, it was later in Coach's career. I was on a national team going over to Bonn, West Germany, and Coach somehow got on the trip, and you were like, "Yeah, keep him over for a couple of weeks." Is it at 85 or so, 80 maybe? But when you coached Jody, and actually was Charlie, like that championship year. What can you tell us about the national championship?
Oh, gee, man, that was just so exciting.
Don't
We had
forget
a
your
great group
mute
of girls.
there, Charlie.
I'm unmuted.
Harrigan, Dan Harrigan, wannabe. A lot of wannabe University of Miami guys, Dan. A lot of wannabes. Charlie, is your mute off?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's off. Can you hear me?
Tell us a little bit about that championship year.
Well, we had 2 championship years, the 75 and the 76. I was the assistant coach in 75.
You got him?
Can you hear me?
Hold on just a minute. Tim, Jody, are you hearing Charlie?
I'm
I
here.
can hear Charlie.
I hear him.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, we had 2 years where we won back to back, and in 75, I was the assistant coach, and then in 76, I had become the head coach. Coach gave that up. He still wanted to be the father of all those girls, but we both coached together, and it was very exciting. And the girls worked really hard. And Ford Scott was a big factor in our recruiting. He worked on it full time, all the time. He just loved doing that. So he was a huge help and brought in some real talent. And the girls all just swam well. I mean, at the Nationals, they generally, almost every one of them did their best time. And it was just so much fun. And the one in 76, it was in Fort Lauderdale. So we hosted it. That was difficult. My father was the meet director. My mother did all the heat sheets and everything else. I mean, we ran that as a little family. And that was where the girls were all wearing the Charlie Angels T-shirts.
You love that, Charlie.
In that meet, that's when Lisa Sword, she was our butterflyer, shaved her head.
Made national news. AP took a picture.
And she had a big orange and green U on her head, but she had a cap on. When she got on the block, she ripped it off.
Yeah, Charlie, I had to look at her swimming fly toward me when I was doing the freestyle leg.
That's right. Oh yeah, it was so much fun. I mean, you just can't imagine.
I do remember, and that was long before like ESPN and all that was fledgling, maybe. But I remember that shaved head being on sports pages all around the country. It was big news.
Yeah.
Charlie, and listen, remember the next day UCLA came in because we were tied and they all had skull caps on?
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. But you guys beat them, Jody. You did what it took.
That's right. That's right. Oh, I do want to tell you something from the 75 championships. I was a freshman and I was like really, really nervous, and it was really close. And it was at Tempe, Arizona, and it was outdoor, and it was really, really, really cold. In fact, we could see snow up in the mountains. And I made the consolation heat in the 50 fly, and it was really close with us. And coach came over to me and he says, baby, if we're going to win this meet, you need to win this heat. And so I was like, okay. And he goes, but I believe in you. There's no one I'd rather have on the block other than you. And so I just don't remember anything after that until touching and looking over and seeing everybody go crazy, and that we won.
Wow. Well, I know that coach has inspired many of us. I mean, on the coaching ranks. And Tim, you think about it. We're going to get a couple of your buddies in. And Charlie, when I think of all the people that he inspired, not just as swimmers or divers, but all the way through. You know what? I'm going to Jody. I'm going to ask you just step out for a minute, because I'm going to bring in one of one of your good buddies and an All-American in his own right, Lenny Leyland. Lenny.
I've been texting him all day.
So good to see you, Lenny.
Hey, Lenny.
Can you give us a little story about diving at the University of Miami? Maybe Coach Diaz, something about Timmy, anything you like. We want to get a story. Welcome.
Welcome,
Hey, baby.
Lenny.
Oh, maybe we lost him. Timmy was so excited.
Oh my gosh. I love that dude.
Good to see Lenny.
I love that dude.
Okay. Well, I believe, you know what? Kurt's going to take his place back right here. Kurt, well, you, Lenny, and Timmy would go to these football games, University of Miami, to this day, right? You guys are still supporters?
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Now, and we go ahead.
Not so much.
Tell me something about Miami football I don't know.
I went to a football game in Gainesville against the University of Florida, and Timmy McKee, who just commented just now, came over to us, and Florida did a good play, and he had his Florida shirt on. And he comes running up to us, go Gators, go Gators. And then intercepts it, runs it back for a touchdown. He takes his shirt off and turns it inside out. It's a Cane shirt. Yeah, go Canes. It was amazing. It was hilarious.
We never lose to the Gators, though.
Oh. Hey,
Very rare.
Charlie, I don't want you to go anywhere because I definitely am bringing you back. But hang on a minute. We're going to try and bring Lenny back in and see if we can add him in.
Lenny!
Hey.
All right. Now, Lenny, This is a professional show.
He just kicked his dog.
All
That's
right.
not my dog. Whose dog?
All right. If you're not Lenny, mute yourself and let's go. Go ahead.
Am I muted?
You're good.
Lenny, you're up. Tell us a story.
All right.
Lenny's frozen.
Well,
Oh man.
Coach,
The best intentions. Are you with us, Lenny?
We
I'm
got
with you.
lots of stories.
Okay. Tim, you're gonna have to tell us one about Lenny.
All right. Well, you know, when a lot of us were at the U with Coach Diaz, some of us had never seen the snow. So we had these things called parkas that, you know, those full length jackets that Coach would give us. They were green and they had that ugly ibis on the right on the breast here, orange and green. And Coach used to call them Parkers. So anytime we went anywhere like Tennessee, where Grant Whitcomb saw snow for the first time, Coach would go, "Don't forget your Parkers." We're like, "Coach, we're called Parkas." You know, for 5 years he called them Parkers. So there's more. We got more.
Well, I know you do. And we talked earlier, Charlie, about just one of your All-American swimmers. So we're going to bring him in here right now because he's finally off of work. Coach Jesse Vassallo, great to see you, man. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. Great to see you. Charlie, how are you?
Yeah.
Hey, Jesse, I loved your video on training on the beach.
That's all we get.
Beautiful.
3 days a week at the pool, 3 days at the beach.
Very creative.
Good for you.
Okay, so Coach Vassallo, we've been talking a little bit about Coach Bill Diaz, and Coach Charlie was explaining, you know, some of the early years. How did it come about that you came to swim for Coach Diaz, and what were your early memories, and then what were your sustained kind of inspirational gets from a guy like that? Tell us a little bit about the coach.
Well, I was actually 11 years old when I met Coach Diaz. My family moved from Puerto Rico to Miami. My parents were looking to get their business started down here in Florida, and for us to learn English, and that's how we got here. We were swimming in Puerto Rico. We looked for a team. We ended up with Coach Diaz over there in University of Miami and Charlie. And a heck of an experience, you know. I love that guy. That's what we all say. I love that guy. It's just, to me, it was, you know, it's just, I used to get there to practice and watch him coach. I remember watching him coach David Wilkie and the big group I called back then. And I just sit there and watch and see how he motivated the guys. He might not be the greatest or have the biggest knowledge on swimming, but he did have that special thing that pushed you to try your best and get kids excited about swimming and competing and trying to do things they never did before. And it was all about that. He was also a coach that always thought about, you know, if we're doing this, let's have fun doing it and let's do as good as we can, having fun. And to me, I can tell you my dad passed away in 1977, and definitely was a person that filled a big hole in my life. When my dad was not there, Coach Diaz took care of a lot of things, and I'll never forgive him for that. He was an unbelievable person, and not only me and my brothers benefit from knowing Coach Diaz and swimming under him as a little kid and later as an adult or a young adult. Tell you one thing, when I was a junior in college, and I had my knee went out on me, and I had complete, total reconstruction on my knee. Him and Charlie never said anything, just, get well and get back to it and give me full support. Was never doubted that they were going to back me up and give me whatever I needed to get going. So I really appreciate it. And he's just, like I said, I love that guy. He deserves a lot of love, and I think the whole team feels that way about him. Not only our team, but for many years, the years that he was been there, he earned that. He was many guys' father. He was, that second father. As a swim coach, we spend so much time with his kids, and sometimes as a swim coach, you spend more time than their parents, huh, Charlie?
A
You
lot
see
more.
them in the morning, you see them in the afternoon, and
All weekend.
coaches get to know their kids. And like right now, I learned a lot from him. I feel like I feel the way he did for my swimmers. I love my kids. I wish them the best. I'll do whatever it takes for them to be successful, and that's the way he was with every one of his swimmers.
Absolutely. And I know, I was blessed enough, Jesse, to coach at the U for 5 years, and guys like Timmy O'Brien and Kurt Wienants made it a lot easier for me. But Coach Diaz, I bought my home in Miami from his wife. I mean, his son, I saw John was on earlier. He's the guy who had me out on the boat, the recruiting trip. No, Coach Diaz is a staple, and I believe he certainly firmed up that Miami tradition and legacy. And then, of course, losing the men's team, that's when I exited stage left. That the late 90s were tough because of all the gender, kind of requirements. And, they brought in a guy, and what happened was our athletic director was Paul D, and I'll never forget it. I went into Paul's office and I said, "You're going to cut swimming, men's swimming, aren't you?" He said, "Oh, no, we're just going to freeze the scholarships." And I looked at him and I said, "Paul, he said, "Probably in a couple years. It's what we're being advised by a guy." They paid a big, like 40, 50,000 for a guy to come and work 2 weeks. He was an NCAA consultant. He said, "Drop men's swimming, drop men's golf, drop men's." So it's like all these things to kind of get in compliance. And I get it. You have to do certain things. But University of Miami, and that was a tough pill to swallow for everybody. But the girls have had, a number of years since then, and they've pushed back and forth. And certainly divers, Coach Randy Abelman's been able to keep the men. And I know for you, Timmy, and certainly if we're going to try and, think about the elite divers through the many years, they carried me the 5 years I was there. We were top 10 or 11 every year. We were top 5 once with 1 or 2 points in swimming and everything else from the divers, and it was an incredible legacy. I think that Tom Gump started all the way through Randy Abelman right now. And how many years has Randy been there? Give me a little bit about Randy Abelman's legacy.
Yeah. First of all, Jesse, it's great to see you, brother. I love you, and happy birthday.
Thank you.
And, I know Randy Abelman, I think, is the longest tenured coach at the University of Miami now. There's no coach in any sport that's been there longer. And he pretty much just carried on the tradition. He was fortunate to keep the men's diving program going after they let men's swimming go. And he's had the full support of the university. It's a bit of a touchy subject for us that the men's swimming program was dropped because those are my brothers. And while the diving program kept going, the men's program that we were a part of has pretty much been erased, literally, from the walls of the aquatic center down there. So we're not real happy about that. But that being said, Randy's just continued to roll along. He's produced a ton of great divers, Olympians, and one thing I want to say about Coach, and I don't know if I'll get a chance to say it.
Go right ahead.
Later, but one of the things he always told us was get your degree and be a good citizen. And I think all of us remember that. Norman Shippert, John Galloway, Ricky Green, Kurt, Brad Youthy, A.K. Miller, Lenny, Matt Gribble. The list goes on and on. Norman Shippert. Coach always told us, some of us were pretty wild in those days, and Coach always said, get your degree, be a good citizen. And for me, that really struck home because I was having a lot of fun, and I finally did get my degree. And thanks to Coach Dias.
And that's great.
To this day.
That's a kind of inspiration. All right, Lenny, do you have something you want to throw in on the see if we can get it this time? No, maybe not. Oh, well.
Are you snorkeling?
Oh, well, we're all back except, okay. Well, I do appreciate, Jesse, you making a lot of effort to be here. I know you're doing the same kind of thing, finishing practice and running over. When you look at the legacy that is, Miami swimming, and you think about NCAAs, and I know I'm going to bring Charlie back in on this because, Charlie, he's retired from coaching, but you guys have seen a lot of changes through the years. What do you think the future is going to be for the University of Miami? I know, Tim, the divers seem to be pretty solid, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Andy Kershaw just signed a new contract. He's there. He's going to be coaching the women's team. Do you feel the school is going to continue to support?
Yeah, my concern is that I know Randy's getting toward the end of his time. He's coached several Olympics, and he has a daughter that's going to start attending school there in a year or so. After she graduates in 4 years, I don't know where they're going to go.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
I'd like to say something.
Jesse, go ahead.
Yeah,
Jeff.
I look at University of Miami and I see a huge potential to have a great swimming team. I don't know how the people don't see it. Miami, that name is known worldwide as a sun and the beach and swimming, and I think it would be a great place to really develop a great swimming team like there was before. Top 5, no problem with, really good. It's got the potential. It's got the climate. It's got the name. It's got the history. It's just we didn't, men's swimming didn't have the support. And it was sad because right after you left, Sid, I went by to see if I get the job and coach at the university, and they said, no, no man's swimming here. I said, it's not going to be the same. So, I lost a little love for my university when that happened. Not for Coach Dias, but for university, or my group. I love the guys. I love what the experience I had was wonderful, beautiful. I love those guys. And I just see like they're losing a great opportunity to make a name for themselves worldwide. They can make a name for themselves with football locally, but worldwide, Miami could do it in swimming. I don't know why they don't see it. They're thinking small, maybe. They're only thinking here locally. But really, I've always seen it. That's why one of the reasons I was there, the great coaches we had and the potential it had. And it was just going to keep getting better. And I just,
it's a damn shame.
People got to look a little bit beyond money. It's not all about money.
No, it had nothing to do with money. It was just about numbers. They were like, these are cut and dry. I mean, we had a really good men's team. We sent guys out to Sam Freeze in Hawaii. He gave full scholarships to. I mean, we had 5 guys leave that had eligibility the year they told us they were going to freeze scholarships. And we had 4 guys on the line for 2 scholarships that were going to. 2 of them were definitely. We were going to be a lot better, and then boom, the rug was pulled. So, but I think it's more than that. I think it's all about the NCAA's situation these days. COVID just throws a wrench into it. You saw the ECU thing, all the teams that are dropping. Without going too much into the negative, there's so much positive, and we're about stories and celebrating. And you guys talking about Coach Bill Diaz is unbelievable. There is a young man who's championed Coach Diaz as much as anyone I know. Oh, I don't see him in his place anymore. young Robert Strauss. He may join us in the future here.
There might be some stories there.
Okay, Robert. Welcome, Robert. We'll put you in. And Tim, don't go away. We'll be back. Okay, Coach Strauss, you're coming to us from Miami, I'm sure. You're an internet magician. You're usually doing these things on swim lessons all over the world. I see the Spanish edition is #1. Hey, can you tell us a little bit about University of Miami Glory Days, Coach Bill Diaz? Do you hear us? Can you go?
Look at that hair. That's a lot of hair.
Great picture. We can't hear you, Robert.
You're
Robert, we don't have you on mute, maybe? Hello? No, we cannot hear you. You're supposed to be the expert. What's the matter, Strauss? Hello? Robert. Yep, maybe log out, log back in. I tell you what, we'll come back. We'll come back to you.
You know,
I want to see Coach Jody Yambor has Coach Terry Mall with her. Coach Terry, come back in. Because he swam again. I mean, many times you coached against Coach Bill Diaz, Florida State versus Miami. You got a memory for us, Coach? Can you tell us something about Coach Diaz? We got to take the mute off first, Jody.
There we go.
Thank you.
I knew Coach in my earlier years of coaching, and all I can really say was just a class act all the way. He treated everyone so well, whether you were in a tight swim meet or getting blown out one way or the other. Just a class act that was someone that I looked up to and in many ways wanted to model myself as a coach in treating other people and treating competitors the way he did. Just a wonderful man.
Well, thanks, Terry, and we really appreciate you and especially your lovely wife, Dr. Jody, joining us tonight. Jody, I don't want to cut you off. I want to make sure that you get to tell any of the stories or comments you want. And it doesn't have to just be about Bill. If you want to say something nice about Charlie, he's bothered to join us. You can talk or tell me a good story. I was thinking of Coach's lineage. Well, I was thinking Barbara Ann. Well, her son, Michael Joyce, is one of the best young coaches in the nation. So, he had Folky, and I know he's had a few more. Go ahead and tell us something.
Oh, boy. Well, I just absolutely loved my time there, and we were all like a family. And Coach and Charlie were always looking out for us and cleaning up our messes and taking care of us. It was just a great time. And Coach Diaz, he remained in my life. Long after I left Miami, when I was in grad school, I called him and I said, Coach, I'm training for the New York City Marathon. And he goes, baby, on a good day, all you could swim was 100. And I started working. I'm like, oh my God, maybe I can't do this. So anyway, I trained and I did it. And I called him and I told him, and he goes, oh my God, you sandbagged me all those years.
He would have had you in the distance lane.
Yeah, I should have been a miler, right, Charlie?
I don't think so. I don't know how you did that. Wow.
But I will tell you, the women that I swam with are still some of the best friends in my life. I still see Ruth Ann. I saw Suzanne Fahey-Besky last weekend. They'll be my friends for life. They were in my wedding. I just love that.
And that's the thing about swimming. And Jesse, you've seen it. Your whole family's been in it. Charlie was telling us about it earlier. It's such a familial sport that that now that we've had this COVID thing and people haven't had competition, and yeah, we see each other in these two dimensions, but really being able to see someone and experience the passion of swimming. Today, Jesse, was our first day back in a pool since March 13th. It wasn't our own. We're finally renting at Boca Prep. The old Mission Bay Mako warm-up pool. You remember? I was standing there looking in awe. I haven't been on that deck since they tore down the pool. But it's now a small school, international, Boca Prep, great school. They've rented us some lane space, and it was just looking at these kids again for months swimming. You realize what you miss. And from a family point of view, Jesse, tell us one or two of the benefits that you've always carried through that you've learned from this great sport.
You know, I coach now, and it's about giving your best all the time. Not everybody's going to win. Not everybody's going to be number one every time. But I call my swimmers, Coach used to call them baby, and Coach Nelson used to call us horse. I call my champs just because sometimes I forget their names. No, but I call them champ because I want them to be champions in and out of the water. I want them to try their best at every opportunity they get out of life, and take advantage of everything they have, and to see that the opportunities they're there, and it's up to you to take advantage of them. And I think you learn to lose, you learn to win in swimming. And that is so important nowadays to cope with not being number one, and to continue in the fight. It's something that you learn in swimming, and I treasure that. That's what we're all going through right now.
Amen.
And all of us are going, okay, how do we figure this out? How do we move forward? And that's what we learn from swimming. None of us have given up. We're just going to wait and see how we figure this out and move forward with it. And I think that is something that that's what I was saying earlier. It's not only about money, or it's about what people learn from sports. And I think it's so important to keep all sports in universities and all the way through. It's sad to see right now. I get kids that start swimming when they're 11 and 12. They don't even know how to run or throw a ball or catch. And it's just something that not just physical education. It's just the putting in the effort and learning that through hard work you accomplish things, you change things, you get better at things, and that's what I think most people get out of swimming, and that's why I do it. Not I had some pretty good swimmers, but what turns me on is to take.
You do such a beautiful job. I mean, you coach passionately from your heart, and that's why you have such a loyal group. You have people who just would do it for you, and it's great to see. And I'm honored to be in the Florida Gold Coast with you. Charlie, the Florida Gold Coast has always been kind of a coaches run LSC, which is the local swim committee, and we've been proud of that. I know that for us, Kurt Wienants, for the guys that are looking forward to competitions, a lot of parents, and you put on your parent hat, are getting real antsy about not having races, and you get a voice like Jesse's that just says, just calm down. We're going to control what we can control, and let's not get too jacked up and worried about it. But, Kurt, give us some of your closing thoughts, because we're getting into these last 15 minutes. I got such a big crowd here. I want to make sure that you give us some wisdom before you depart.
All right, here's what can you guys hear me well?
Yes.
When we went to school, I signed with like 6 other guys. And in 1982, I'm a 19-year-old freshman, and we get to figure out that Coach Diaz was a World War II veteran. So we're like, oh, okay, what's going on there, Coach Diaz? And he would never tell us any of his quote-unquote war stories. But we did find out he flew 20 missions over Japan as a door gunner in like a B-29, maybe B-26, B-29, one of those two. And he was the same age that we were as freshmen and sophomores at UM, 19, 20 years old. He's getting shot at by Japanese enemies, Jap Zeros, in World War II. And here we are, we're in the sun, we're swimming, the co-eds are in their bikinis. It was amazing. And we're like, wait a second, we have to think about this for a second. And he used to yell at us, you can do it, baby. Come on, coach, we're tired. And he would go, is that what you're going to tell the enemy when they're trying to crawl inside the foxhole? I'm tired. So we got a kick out of that. He was just a great man. He mentored us all to be young men.
You mentioned that foxhole a lot.
Well, he was a great man, and he always steered us in the right direction.
Jesse, you remember a few of those speeches, obviously.
Oh yeah. He always said, "Yeah, you're worth it to be in the foxhole." I like to be with that guy. That's the kind of person I want to be with. And I'm in trouble. That's the kind of man I want to be with.
Yeah. I know. You know, for me, it was when I was on my recruiting trip. I made a request Sunday morning to go to Catholic Mass. And Coach really was impressed by that because my mom was going to ask me when I got home. And after all the other things I did that weekend and learned that weekend and saw for the first time that weekend, I was like, oh, hey, Coach was very proud to take me.
One more quick story. We went to our conference meet. Charlie, you were there. University of South Carolina. And we were in the National Independent Conference, Florida State, South Carolina, Miami, Tulane, Southern Illinois. We had a pretty strong conference swimming-wise. And some girls from the South Carolina team were like, hey, we're going to have a party. We're going to have a party, guys. We'll pick you up at the hotel. We're like, okay. So Coach and Charlie had a strict, no, you can't go out after the meet's over.
Of course.
We had a curfew, all this stuff. So we made the arrangements. The South Carolina girls pull up and they had one station wagon. There's like 15 of us. They're here. So we ran out to the parking lot. Don't wear any Miami stuff. And one guy, Andre Aguilar, wore his Miami sweatshirt. So we're all piled in the car. There's 15 of us. We're all stuck in there. Coach Diaz saw us. Charlie, they come walking out in the parking lot. Bends over. You guys want to go to NC2A? Yeah, Coach. Get the F out of the car. It was great.
Well, I see Gordy Westerberg. He watches our shows a lot. Jesse, he wants to know about your get out swim at Mission. You did afternoon. You swam within 2 seconds of the world record. You remember that and got sick? Something about
that? I love to do get out swims.
Yeah.
Anything to get out of that. Yeah.
Do you remember a particular one? And Joe Joe was telling us about a set of 2,400 IMs. And Charlie, who was that from? Where did that come from? Do you remember that, Jesse?
I can still feel it. No. I'm going to tell you one story about Casey Converse. That guy.
I thought it was 400 IMs. But anyway, go ahead.
Casey Converse missed practice one day, and Schubert went and get him and sent him a 10,000 for time. And we hanged around and looked at him, swim alone. And then the last 50, he swims at fly. Schubert got so mad, he goes, on the 60, start another one. No, but Coach Dyer wasn't like that. He was very, very special person. And I tell you, Charlie and Robert, when I was young, was assistant coach too. As a college student, he was being assistant, and he also helped me as a young swimmer. So seeing all of them here is like seeing my family. Charlie was, when I was young, 11, 12 years old, I swam under Charlie and Coach Diaz and also our great friend. It was a very special time, and I always will treasure it. My My best friends are still my college colleagues. We sometimes have arguments and have this, differences, but we come back together very quickly, and it happens with brothers too. So but I won't change it for anything. There'll be, I was. You remember I was almost went to UCLA, right? Remember that, Sid?
I do. I was
Like you
actually.
gave me the recruiting trip there.
I was part of the group trying to recruit you. I remember well because we're good friends with Brian Goodell, and Brian Goodell was a freshman. It was spring after NCAA's, and we had a good time. We thought we were going to get you for sure because it was like George Haynes was there at the time, and Brian was a freshman, and everything. Tony Bartle and the crew, it was like, Jesse, come with us. We didn't think we'd lose you to Miami, but you know what?
I tell you what, it was Bill. It was Bill.
I can understand that 100%.
Bill and Charlie, and I needed that at that time. The boycott was just passed, and my dad had passed away, and I wanted to do it, but not be pushed. And this guy took care of me. And I thank you, Charlie, and I thank Coach Diaz for everything he did.
It was a pleasure. And a little story about Jesse when he was 11. And his dad, his dad, God love him, he was a force, and that, Jesse. He was a force. And one day at practice, he came to me and said, is it legal to kick butterfly underwater on backstroke? And I said, well, I don't see any rules that you can't do that. So the next day, Jesse comes to practice, and on a push-off and backstroke, he's doing dolphin kick underwater. So I think Jesse was actually the first person ever to do dolphin underwater off turns, as far as I know. This was like 1974, the early in 74. Is that what you recall, Jesse?
Yeah, around then.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. We used to put the fins on, and where I got good at doing this? It was I used to go in the deep end of the diving well, and I try to go from the deep really fast and try to jump over the lane lines without touching it. That was my my game, and actually, got better at it trying to do that.
So Jesse, a lot of that beginning early years, you were just playing, but what's the first time you felt it really made a huge difference in a race where you were doing underwater dolphins?
No, the first time I used it in a big race was 1976 U.S. Nationals, because I was right next to what's his name, John Neighbor, and I'm really short. And I'm looking at this guy. He's going to kill me off the start, so I'm going to have to do something.
You were 14.
I went after it, and actually my dad was there. He was still alive, and he said to me, I never seen this in a swimming meet where everybody just went quiet and went, oh, like where the heck did he go? He went underwater and then popped out, and it worked. It worked that time. Pretty good.
And you were like 14.
Yes, I was 14. Yeah.
Hey, Sid.
Tim.
Can I just say something as the lone diver in the group?
We tried Lenny. We gave him 3 shots and he struck out. So, yeah. And I want you to represent all diving here, Tim. Give us a final say for you and for the great legacy and wherever you want to come from. We appreciate your time. So thanks for being here tonight.
I hear Bill Diaz in Jesse's voice.
That's beautiful.
And this brotherhood that I've been a part of since 1981 is all due to Bill Diaz. And as a diver, he always made us feel a part of and not separate from. So I developed these friendships with Jesse and Kurt and Grant and Lenny, and these guys. And thank you to Charlie and Jody for all you did. I mean, we were wild childs. And
maybe you.
And they put up with a lot. But, you know, I think back to 1981 when Bill Dias took us to the Florida Keys.
That's
We
a
just
car.
turned over a car.
on its-
But Coach took us to the Florida Keys for a little team unity.
It's the last trip.
And that started a 40-year love affair I had with the Florida Keys, and that was Bill Dias. And you know, it took me 5 years to get through college, and I only went into business because I saw Norman. He had like this business law book, so I said, okay, I'll go into business. And I was done with my eligibility after 4 years, and the University of Miami paid for my 5th year to go to school there. And I think probably Charlie and Bill Dias had a little to do with that.
That was all Coach.
Yeah, well, I didn't find out till years later, but Coach made arrangements for the university to pay my last year of schooling. And, you know, as a wild child, years later, I wrote a letter to Coach, and I told him what a great impact he had on my life. And I was a bit apologetic for my wild years, but I probably wasn't the first guy to go through the U and be a little bit misguided. But Coach, it just brought Coach and I closer. And I was the beneficiary of 2 great swim coaches, Terry Stoddard at my high school, Capistrano Valley High School, from 78 to 81, and then Bill Dias from 81 to 86 or 85, who were swim coaches who really brought the divers into the program and made us feel a part of. And, you know, Bill saying to us, hey, get your degree and be a good citizen. You know, that was Coach talking to us in our language, and it made a lot of sense to me. And that degree is still on my wall to this day.
Well, thank you, Tim. And both you and Kurt have been great reps of
Just
Coach.
for the record, I only needed 4.5 years.
That's because you were in advertising.
Hey, Sid, can I say one more thing?
Yes, Jody, I was just coming to you. Please give us your goodbyes.
Okay, I just want to say that one thing I really loved about Coach and Charlie too is it didn't matter if you were the best person on the team or the worst person on the team. They still gave you their attention and, you know, the best coaching you could get. And the other thing is I think that Coach and Charlie were way ahead of the time because I feel like they treated the women totally equally as they treated the men.
That's beautiful. And I saw that early on in Coach and definitely, you know, was a big part of the way he that's the way he treated people. And that was beautiful. So thanks very much. There is something before we say goodbye to Charlie and Jesse. You know, the university, when I was there, we had some great teams. We had some women. We had some people do really, really well, and diving and swimming. I was very honored to have been there. Joe, I don't know. I know I came right in from swim practice. I don't know if you got those photos I sent earlier, but there was a graduate. I believe it was 1998, one of my last years, or my last year there, and her name was Erin Baird. Joe, do you know what there's Kurt. You know the young lady I'm speaking of, Joe? Do you have that up? Can we put a picture of Erin up? I just want to make you all aware. This is a young lady who was a distance swimmer at UM. This was, you know, let her winner every year. She came in from Kansas 14 years ago, found out that she had ALS, which normally is like a 3 to 4 year and you're done. And 14 years, she's moved back to New Mexico with her parents years ago. She has 2 daughters, and the whole story is available. And Joe's going to put a link up, at least in the chat, and we may be able to get. But those of you who are Canes and believe in the Kane family. Erin has a GoFundMe that's going on for another 10 days, 11 days, as she's trying to. She does this phenomenal surfboard ride. They take her from New Mexico to the Southern California coast because she sits in a chair and rides waves in. It's part of this fantastic group that supports That's Aaron on graduation day at the U. And that's Crystal Tellegen, one of our All-Americans, giving her a big kiss, her roommate for many years. That was me back when I had color in my hair.
Good Lord.
But Aaron is now, and we'll put a link up. She's, anybody who's watching who wants to follow through with the link, I think she's a great embodiment of the family that is University of Miami Hurricane Swimming and Diving. And as you take a look at her in her surf chair and follow the story that we'll have the link up to, I think it's pretty special. So, Joe, we can do that and put it up there. But before we say goodbye to Jesse and Charlie, Jesse, you've been so eloquent already. I'm going to let Charlie step up next and kind of give us your, I think, goodbyes and good wishes and any information, Charlie, that you think we could learn from here before you leave us. This is the GoFundMe for Aaron. Any of you Canes, it's just, it'll be here and you come back to this. We'll have the replay. We'd love to see you guys follow up on that story. But Charlie, not speaking just of your one world record holder, but your years at Miami and all that you've been able to do. How about saying good night and giving us a little hope for the future?
Well, there's great hope in the future. And I loved hearing Jesse's statements about how he treats his swimmers like family and gives them guidance, just like Coach Diaz did all the years. And he was, I was so close to him for so long that he was an important part of my life. And I'm always been so thankful to him for giving me so many opportunities. In other words, he just let me sort of take the bull by the horns, and every once in a while he'd step in and slow me down a little bit, but he was just a great guy. And I think swimming has a great future still, and we're learning a lot right now. You can see that there are a few swimmers around the country that are doing absolutely incredible best times.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure maybe it's because they finally got rested. The people overtraining.
It might be.
But maybe
the 50s and the 100s.
Finding a backyard pool and you're doing surgical tubing for hours and you're running a lot and you're doing a lot of dry land, and then you go run in the ocean and swim in the ocean, and then you go to swimming and you do your best times. It's like, whoa, what the heck's going on here? Maybe we have something to learn from all this. I think that we're going to see maybe some changes for the future in how we train, and it's pretty exciting.
I think you're right with that, Charlie. I think that's good food for thought. And, Bob Matson, who I love to death, he's my mentor, and he said, Charlie, he said, change is inevitable and change is always good. And we needed change. It's just the process right now during this time is really painful. But when we get to the other side, we'll have something better. And I'm like, okay, Coach, I'm going to take that and run with it. But Jesse, give us a good night, and then we'll let Coach Joe and myself just sign off. And we're very, very thankful to have the Cane Stories tonight. You two have been anchors of this production. So, Coach Vassallo, what do you got for us?
Thank you so much.
Happy birthday. Thank God Stu put it. I knew. Who was it? Tim remembered. I saw it this morning on Facebook. I got to tell Jesse, happy birthday.
Yeah, we're getting old.
You're not getting old, dude. You're
very old. No, it's always great to see old friends and people that you love. And like Charlie, it's always good to see you. I hope Amy and everybody in your family is doing good. And bring back, Coach Diaz and relive his memories and, feel that warmth in his heart, because he is that kind of guy. He brings that, I remember those, that warmth he brought to what we had. And it's something special. And we get a chance to build ours too. I know you're doing your thing over there, and I know every coach does this. Teachers get a kid come in for a class 50 minutes and go. We get them for 6, 7, or 8 years, and we see them grow up and mature. So there are kids, and it's great when we talk about this, because that's my family. That's Coach Diaz and Coach Charlie was my family, my swimming family, and seeing them part of my family. I have other family in California too. So it's a great big family I have in swimming, and that's why I coach. So I love to hang around swimmers. They're great people, and we build something special. We build swimmers that are not only great in the water but great people outside the water, and we need more of those. So keep on working, guys.
Amen. Well, Joe and all of our guests, please stay on. If you just saw that special message from Australia, if you stay on, we're going to bring Timmy McKee in for the after stories.
Yes.
They're not going to be broadcast. Those should be.
And by the way, so Sid, you may want to send Tim the link real quick, just so he has it to join in on face to face.
Yes.
But anyway, Jared Francis just chimes in. I like that. He's a massive 400 IMer for back in the day. Anyway, listen, guys, I grew up in Florida. My dad played football for the Miami Dolphins. I love Miami. Gosh, if there was a guys team, I would have loved to gone there to go there. I know that it ended in the 90s, but Jesse, you have been amazing your entire life. I've always looked at your records and followed you my whole time. And Kurt Wienants, amazing. You got me to swim masters when I got out of Florida. And Jody, I know you through Terry, so that's awesome. Tim O'Brien, I just met you recently, so that's great. I actually, Terry Horner, he's our coach at Winter Park High School. He's a diver, and so this is like, he's like, should I get all, he's naming all these divers who I have no clue who they are, but he's like, should I get this guy? Should I get this guy? Should I get this guy? It's crazy. And then Charlie, I've known you for a long time through the Harrises and Michelle Richardson. And it was great to talk to you today for 15 or 20 minutes. That was incredible. And, it's just great to hear about all the stories about Miami. And I love Miami. And someone said it tonight. I think it was Jesse. Why wouldn't you go to Miami to swim? I mean, you have the ocean, you have the nightlife, you have everything. It's so beautiful. And I was born there, by the way, so I'm a little partial to it. But anyway, Sid, thanks for having me on and getting this thing together. It's awesome.
Joe, you're the man. And what we're doing here is really just trying to share some love. And I'm very thankful to all of our guests tonight and all of the people that are tuning in and putting notes in here. I saw Cheryl Nelson. I think, I followed Coach Jack Nelson at the University of Miami and Richard Cahalan. Richard in between. Richard took it for a year and Hurricane Andrew wiped him out. But the love that this sport has is important as we go through these challenges. And I want to thank you all for making time to be with us tonight. Yeah, we'll have the Sid's After Hours story. That's right. It's called.
I have a million pictures. I have a million pictures that I could have shown you guys, but there's way too many in a lot of.
It's just. We'll have the private showing. But Joe, thank you, and thank you, Swim Monkey. Until next week, when we have more stories.
Join us on the Swim Monkey.
Swim Monkey TV
on the Monkey.